We all want to be seen as kind, respectful, and well-mannered. From childhood, we are taught to be polite, agreeable, and accommodating. But here is a hard truth. Most people never tell you some habits that look polite on the surface are silently destroying your reputation, your confidence, and the way others value you. These behaviors don't make you respected. They make you overlooked, underestimated, and sometimes even used. Today we expose 7 so-called polite habits you must stop, starting now. The first habit is over-apologizing. Saying sorry when you've done something wrong is powerful. Saying it when you haven't is damaging. When you apologize for asking a question, sharing an opinion, or simply taking up space, you communicate insecurity. People begin to associate you with weakness rather than humility. Respect comes from accountability, not constant self-blame. The second habit is always agreeing to avoid conflict. You nod, smile, and say yes, even when you strongly disagree. You believe this keeps the peace, but in reality, it erases your identity. People don't respect those who never stand for anything. Healthy disagreement shows confidence, intelligence, and self-respect. Silence may feel polite, but it often sounds like a lack of conviction. Third is putting everyone else's needs before your own. Being considerate is admirable, but self-neglect is not. When you constantly sacrifice your time, energy, and boundaries, you train people to see you as endlessly available. Over time, they stop appreciating your kindness and start expecting it. Respect fades when boundaries don't exist. The fourth habit is softening your words to the point of weakness. Phrases like, "I'm not sure, but maybe," or "this might be a stupid idea," make you sound unsure, even when you're competent. Politeness should not require shrinking your voice. Clear, calm, and direct communication earns trust and authority. The fifth habit is laughing off disrespect. When someone makes a rude comment and you smile to keep things comfortable, you silently approve the behavior. People treat you how you allow them to. What you tolerate becomes your reputation. Politeness should never cost you your dignity. The sixth habit is seeking constant approval. Always checking if others are comfortable, happy, or pleased may seem considerate, but it signals insecurity. Confident people consider others, but they don't need permission to exist, speak, or lead. Approval seeking slowly strips away credibility. The seventh and final habit is staying quiet when you should speak up. You don't want to seem rude, difficult, or confrontational, but silence in moments that matter makes you invisible. Your voice has value. When you don't use it, others decide your worth for you. True politeness is not about pleasing everyone. It's about being respectful without betraying yourself. Stop confusing kindness with weakness. The moment you drop these habits, your confidence grows, your presence strengthens, and your reputation transforms. Be kind, but be firm. Be polite, but be powerful. Over-apologizing makes you appear insecure and weak, rather than humble, slowly damaging how others respect and value you. Over-apologizing may seem like a sign of good manners, but in reality it slowly weakens your reputation and self-confidence. When you say sorry for things that are not your fault, such as asking a question, expressing an idea, or taking time to think, you send a message that you believe your presence is a burden. People around you begin to associate you with uncertainty rather than competence. Instead of seeing you as thoughtful or respectful, they start to view you as someone who lacks confidence in their own value. Excessive apologies also blur the line between accountability and self-blame. Taking responsibility when you make a mistake is admirable and builds trust, but apologizing for existing, speaking, or setting boundaries does the opposite. It shifts power away from you and places you in a lower position in conversations and relationships. Over time, others may stop taking your words seriously because your constant apologies suggest that even you don't fully stand behind what you say. Another hidden danger of over-apologizing is that it trains people to expect submission. When every sentence begins with sorry, you unconsciously teach others that your needs, opinions, and time are less important than theirs. This can lead to being interrupted more often, overlooked in group discussions, or assigned blame unfairly. What began as politeness turns into a pattern of being undervalued. Breaking this habit does not mean becoming rude or careless. It means replacing unnecessary apologies with confidence and clarity. Instead of saying sorry for bothering you, say thank you for your time. Instead of sorry, this might be wrong, say here's my perspective. These small changes reshape how people perceive you. True respect grows when your words come from self-assurance rather than fear. When you stop apologizing for things that don't require forgiveness, you reclaim your voice, your presence, and your reputation. Always agreeing to avoid conflict erases your identity and convinces people that you lack confidence, opinions, and self-respect. Always agreeing to avoid conflict may feel like the safest and most polite option, but over time, it silently erases your identity. When you constantly nod, smile, and say yes, despite having different thoughts or feelings, you teach others that your opinions do not matter. People may initially enjoy your easygoing nature, but eventually they stop asking what you think at all. Agreement without honesty does not create harmony, it creates invisibility. This habit often comes from a fear of rejection or confrontation. You may worry that disagreeing will make you seem rude, difficult, or unlikable. However, respect is not built on constant agreement. In fact, people tend to trust and value those who can express a different viewpoint calmly and confidently. When you never challenge ideas or speak your truth, others may assume you lack depth, intelligence, or conviction, even when that is far from true. Constant agreement also creates internal frustration. Each time you silence your true opinion, you store a small amount of resentment inside yourself. Over time, this can lead to stress, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. You begin to feel unseen and unheard, not because others are intentionally ignoring you, but because you have trained them to believe you are always fine with everything. The cost of keeping the peace becomes the loss of your inner peace. Learning to disagree respectfully is a powerful skill. It does not require raised voices or harsh words. Simple phrases like "I see it differently" or "I have another perspective" allow you to express yourself without attacking anyone. When you speak with honesty and calmness, people listen. They may not always agree, but they will respect your courage and clarity. True politeness includes honesty. When you stop agreeing just to be liked, you regain your voice, strengthen your self-respect, and allow others to see the real person behind the smile. Constantly putting others' needs before your own destroys boundaries and trains people to take your kindness for granted. Constantly putting everyone else's needs before your own is often praised as kindness, but when taken too far, it slowly destroys your self-worth and reputation. At first, people may admire your generosity and willingness to help. You are seen as dependable, caring, and selfless. However, without boundaries, this behavior sends a dangerous message that your time, energy, and needs are less important than everyone else's. When you always say yes, even when you are exhausted or overwhelmed, you teach people that access to you is unlimited. Over time, appreciation turns into expectation. Your kindness is no longer seen as a choice but as a duty. People may stop thanking you, stop considering your limits, and begin to assume you will always adjust, sacrifice, and accommodate. What once felt like politeness quietly becomes self-erasure. This habit also damages your inner balance. Ignoring your own needs leads to burnout, frustration, and emotional fatigue. You may find yourself feeling unrecognized or even resentful, yet guilty for feeling that way. The truth is, self-neglect is not kindness. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and when you are drained, your ability to genuinely care for others weakens. In professional settings, always prioritizing others can make you seem less confident and less valuable. Colleagues may overlook you for leadership roles because you never assert your priorities or protect your time. In personal relationships, it can create unhealthy dynamics where your role becomes that of a helper rather than an equal. True respect begins with self-respect. Caring for others does not require sacrificing yourself. Learning to say no calmly and clearly is not selfish, it is honest. When you honor your own needs, people learn how to treat you. Healthy boundaries allow kindness to be genuine rather than forced, and they transform your reputation from endlessly available to quietly powerful. Softening your words, laughing off disrespect, and seeking approval all signal low self-worth and reduce your authority in social and professional settings. Softening your words to the point of weakness may feel polite, but it quietly undermines your authority and credibility. When you constantly downplay your ideas with phrases like, "I could be wrong," or "this might sound silly," you plant doubt in the minds of others before they even consider your message. Even strong, intelligent ideas lose impact when they are wrapped in excessive hesitation. People don't just hear what you say, they absorb how confidently you say it. This habit often develops from a desire to avoid offending others or appearing arrogant. However, confidence is not arrogance. Clear and direct communication shows self-trust and respect for your own thinking. When you shrink your language, you signal that you don't fully believe in your contribution. Over time, others may start to interrupt you, talk over you, or dismiss your ideas, not because they are bad, but because you presented them as uncertain. In professional environments, weak language can significantly damage your reputation. Leaders are expected to communicate with clarity and calm authority. If you constantly soften your statements, colleagues may see you as indecisive or lacking expertise. In personal relationships, this habit can also create imbalance, where your preferences are easily overridden because they are expressed without firmness. Strong communication does not mean being harsh or aggressive. It means choosing words that are respectful, yet confident. Instead of saying, "I'm not sure, but maybe we could try this," you can say, "I think this approach would work well." The tone remains polite, but the message carries strength. When you stop diluting your words, your presence changes. People listen more closely. Your ideas gain weight. You don't need to be loud to be powerful, you need to be clear. Politeness should enhance communication, not weaken it. By trusting your voice, you reshape how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Staying silent to seem polite makes you invisible. True respect comes from speaking up with clarity, confidence, and self-respect. Laughing off disrespect and seeking constant approval may appear polite on the surface, but together they slowly erode your self-respect and public image. When someone makes a dismissive joke, a rude remark, or crosses a boundary, and you respond with a smile or nervous laughter, you send a silent message that the behavior is acceptable. Even if you feel uncomfortable inside, your reaction teaches others how far they can go with you. What you tolerate becomes the standard by which people treat you. This pattern often comes from a deep desire to be liked and accepted. You may fear that calling out disrespect will make things awkward or cause conflict. However, avoiding discomfort in the moment often creates long-term damage. People who sense that you won't defend yourself may continue to push limits, and over time, their respect for you fades. Politeness should never require you to sacrifice your dignity. Constant approval seeking reinforces this problem. When you rely on others to validate your actions, words, or decisions, you give away your power. You may constantly check reactions, adjust your behavior, or stay silent just to maintain acceptance. This makes you appear unsure of yourself, and insecurity rarely earns respect. Confident individuals consider others' feelings, but they do not depend on external approval to feel worthy. In both personal and professional relationships, this habit can trap you in a cycle of being overlooked. Your ideas may be ignored, your boundaries crossed, and your value underestimated, not because you lack ability, but because you never assert your worth. Respect grows when people see that you respect yourself. Breaking this habit doesn't mean becoming aggressive or cold. Calmly addressing disrespect, setting limits, or simply not laughing along is enough. When you stop chasing approval and start standing firm, your presence changes. You become someone others think twice before dismissing, and your reputation shifts from agreeable to quietly confident.